Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 286, and today we're going to be doing battle in the Gauntlet. And so, this could be it. This could be the last chance, the last opportunity to play in the Gauntlet. This is our last chance Gauntlet, if you will, because I believe they're just going to be removed from the game. They're going to be replaced by the daily tournament in the upcoming patch. And so, with our last chance to do it, I can't let that opportunity slide on by. And so, we're going to go ahead and jump on in, see if we can't hit a prime glory for this seasonals tournament that's going to happen on January the 1st, 1970. And so, the thing I wanted to kind of do with this one is I did go back to the beginning of time in the Battles with Bust channel. I wanted to pick up the first Gauntlet video that we did, and it was Battles with Bust number 8. How far we've come from then. 250 videos ago was when we did our first Gauntlet video. And looking through these deck lists, I was trying to piece together what was really happening in the format at the time without actually watching the video. All three decks we are playing are Demacia-based rally decks, which doesn't explain too much as far as my channel is concerned. I really love playing that style of deck, but they all also had Stony Suppressor, which we've dabbled with on occasion, but then they also had Vanguard Defender, the 2/2 Elite with Tough, and then they all had Vanguard Bannerman in it. And so what I've kind of mentally deduced was happening in the format at the time was Tribeam Ezreal was probably just the best deck in the format. Tribeam Caitlyn, Tribeam Ezreal, or maybe Caitlyn Swain if it made its appearance around back then. But that does explain a lot of what is happening there in terms of the Stony Suppressor shutting down a lot of what Ezreal's doing, and then having the tough units to soak some of the flashbang traps. And so I didn't want to play the exact deck lists. That doesn't make too much sense in the current context of things, but I wanted all of the decks to be kind of in spirit of what we were doing back in this first Gauntlet. And so for deck number 1, we're going to be playing Scouts. That should be the non-surprise deck of the list. We have moved away in all of our decks from the standard rallies, the Golden Aegisuses, and the Relentless Pursuits of the world. We're going to be featuring Champion Strength across all three of our decks. This is the new Good and Strong Rally. In terms of our Scouts deck, we have moved to playing with the Zap Spray Fin Inspired Light kind of combo, if you will. The thing that I've ran into problems with the Stony Suppressor across time is you have to have some kind of way to grow its stats. If you get one of these draws to where you draw multiple Stony Suppressors, it just doesn't do enough on the board. And then as the game progresses and your opponent has more mana each turn, if you haven't found a way to give it +1/+1 or +2/+2 or something, it just doesn't really do anything. And so having these combinations of Inspired Lights and Champion Strength and 4 Demacias are all here to help boost up that Stony Suppressor. Otherwise, fairly standard stock kind of thing coming out of the Scouts. We have the Mirai Wardens and the Island Navigators to generate a little bit of width. That helps with the Inspired Lights being maximum unit whenever we cast it. And then our top end unit of choice is going to be Cytherea, as there are still a pretty reasonable handful of Nora decks running around. Hopefully, she'll give us a little bit of help there. Now, once we move away from here is where things start to get exciting. Deck number 2, we're playing Poppy Garen Jarvan. And so during this time, this would have been when Poppy Jarvan was one of the real decks of the format. We had yet to see the nerfs to things like Vanguard Bannerman, and this really high-powered stat-based thing was pretty strong, especially since a lot of decks weren't playing particularly good answers to Poppy. Then I believe the next iteration of the Poppy deck would have been Poppy Bard, but Poppy Jarvan was the deck back then. And so to kind of bring this into modern times, we have moved more towards the Elites style deck. The Elites are reasonably powerful and constructed as it is right now. If you can't interact with them very well, they will just completely overwhelm you with stats. And so we are keeping some of the kind of throwbacks in here. We have the Stony Suppressor, keeping the Vanguard Defenders around as a nice early game play. And otherwise, the Poppy you wouldn't typically see in a Elites-based deck, but given that she was in the original, I wanted to keep her around as well. last but not least, we have a real interesting take out here. The thing that blew my mind was we were playing Sivir, and I guess, you know, it made a bit of sense to need to branch out into a third faction. And you know, Sivir is a pretty reasonable champion, but we weren't playing like Action Sivir or something like that. It was quite surprising to me. And so we still have, you know, kept the kind of base idea in mind. I kind of saw what was happening with that deck to where we were really just playing Sivir in an Elites deck. But I've tried to branch it out just a little bit to better take advantage of Sivir, apart from that original version. We're out here playing the Absolver so that we can do the Sivir gets overwhelmed kind of thing. But I do really like that we were back here trying to pull off the quick attack challengers or the barrier challengers the best ways that we could. So he's seeing the Fleet Feather Tracker, the Honored Lord, and then the Petricite Broadwing, and then along with Lucian and the generated banners for the Penitent Squire. Actually a really powerful early game collection of units, both trying to pull down quick attack challenges and barrier challenges. And so a lot of things have gotten a bit of nerf since those times. The what's your name? Petricite Broadwing only has 3 health now. The Brightsteel Protector is a 2-1 instead of a 3-2, and so we've definitely lost some early game power that's happening with this, but I still like the ideas that are involved in here. A really strong early game. We don't make trades, we just build out our width. Once we got our width built out, we have a lot of unit boosting between 4 Demacia, Vanguard Bannerman, and Cythria, along with the champion strength up at the top. And so, you know, pretty interesting set of decks. I'm curious to see how they go. I'm ready to come out here and just get annihilated by Aatrox, but you know, it is what it is. You gotta, you fight your battles and take them as they come. So let's see what we can do. The Last Chance Gauntlet. This is the Last Chance Gauntlet. This isn't just a regular gauntlet. This is most certainly here to qualify us for the 1970 seasonals, and so I'm quite excited to see that happen. I hope we actually get to play the game. This is going to be a bit of a bummer if we just queue up and there's the things aren't actually working. There's no games to be played. I'm sure someone will turn up. A lot of those people out there saying, like, God, Bust, you were probably born in 1970, weren't you? Fucking boomer. No, I was not. Still in my 30s, bro. Not that old. Oh, sweet. Found an opponent. Or something happened. Maybe it's going to match us up with the Poro bot. Okay, so what do we have here? What a fantastic thing with Caitlyn turning up. We have to leave the Caitlyn deck as we are out here featuring that kind of tough element. I never ban Yasuo because I have no respect for him, and so we'll come in and ban out the Kindred. And so let's go ahead and get things started with the scouts, see how it goes, see how it happens. Yasuo. I have no respect. I'm sorry, my dude. Just give him the ban. Ugh. Okay, let's see how it goes, though. Reasonable enough start. We got a 1, we got a 2, we got a Stony Suppressor. Reasonable curve happening in the early game. Now, the thing we'll have to worry about here is this is probably like a Daybreak deck that happens to have Yasuo cards in it. That's what you typically see out of these, and so a lot of the Daybreak cards are extremely problematic for scout kind of decks in the sense that, you know, he's just played a 3-3. We couldn't attack into it. That's kind of a bummer. If he comes in and starts adding 3-6s, it's kind of the same deal. He's very good at shutting down our attacks. And so if he can kind of just like stall us into the mid game, it tends to be a bit of a struggle for us. But he was bringing in some attacks early. We have the opportunities here with our Broadwing now. See if we can't take advantage of this. We're going to drop some barriers onto this board. Hopefully get at least one good attack. So we don't want to get too aggressive on this board, right? We have the Inspired Lights in our deck. We don't want to... The way I like to describe it is it's much better to play on 6 units than 2. That should be pretty straightforward and understandable. And so if we can be a little bit more protective of our units until we can drop off an Inspired Light, give us a little bit more advantage. What do we got there? Trouble Bubble. All right. think he's just doing this for the stats onto the Blade Twirler. He doesn't have enough mana behind to cast the Paddle Star. And so, let's go ahead and get Vanguard Sergeant down. We don't have the mana next turn to Mirai Warden and for Demacia, but if we get to for Demacia with the big set of units, we can't win the game, but we can get a pretty big advantage on the board. We'll see. We might look to just Warden and Inspired Light. Zap comes in. We get double Inspired Light. That would be pretty huge. We hit it. Okay, I think I'm on board with that. See if he does anything too crazy here. Concussive Palm isn't crazy enough. It's kind of nice to just drop all these spells before we say LOL, it's a Stony Suppressor, right? Get him out on the cheap and then make the opponent pay the expensive price on him. Cool. What do we got? Broadwing number 2? Sure. I mean, we'll probably still end up playing for Demacia next turn. I think we'll have the mana to do it. He adds a Blade Twirler. So are we just going to get hit by like a Yone? How disastrous would that be? Like if we bring in a Hook and he has a stun on our 5, we're coming in for like 4, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mean, it's technically lethal, but it feels a little sketchy. And so we should be able to for Demacia. If he does have Yone here to get a double stun, we should still at least be killing his team. Alright, that looks pretty strong, though. Let's flip these around. I don't think it's going to matter, but I want to put the bigger damage onto Yasuo. I don't want to barely hook him and have something go wrong with a combat trick. Alright. Victory achieved. Mark it a W for game 1. Can't mark it a W just yet for bust. We still gotta we still gotta try and pull down a victory with Sivir Lucian here, but we'll see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. Give us a cool start. Give us something fun. Alright, well, I think we want to get rid of Sivir. Like, it's tough with Sivir because she's so good as a quick attack challenger, given that she has Spell Shield as well. Maybe we'll just hang on to her and see if we can't pick up a Tattered Banner, maybe like turn 5, turn 6 or something, and still be able to get good usage out of her. Alright, well, Lucian can come to the party. There's an elite as well. Alright, the attacks have been stopped. Fine. Sad noise. Not a bad draw with the Fleet Feather Tracker. We needed to bank 1 mana going into the next turn if we want to load the banner onto Sivir. And so now we can play the Tracker, we can play the Squire, have 1 mana banked up, and then just have this massive board for next turn. Looks pretty good. This is a pretty simple way to get our Lucian leveled up. I'm actually going to go ahead and drop a block in here. I feel like we can probably just trade for the bird next turn, continue to level up our Lucian, and then get a better hook onto something with Sivir. Like if he wants to play Yasuo on this turn, now we have this really powerful hook onto a good card. So they have to either say, oh fuck, I'm going to take 10 damage and lose my whole board, or prevent a little bit of damage but have that unit get murdered by Sivir. Pretty cool. Let's take a Lucian down here at the end. I don't suspect this is a world where he gets to flip in this combat, but that's typically the place you want your Lucian to be, is down at the right. So if he flips in the middle, he gets to do the rallies and the double attacks and stuff. He's going to be gaining some health. Can't stop that. Big. 10-point life swing coming out of the Sun Forger. Ooh, Bannerman. Talk about a choice draw. And we missed this fucking game. This is why back in the day we weren't playing stuff like the Absolver. You don't need, didn't want to risk the bad challenges. Man, a sad day. Alright, we'll bring in the heat, Lucian. This is at least going to get you to flip. Oh, shit! Oh, F me, man. I forgot that Sivir had Spell Shield, so I didn't even bother attacking with her. Oh, man. Did we get a rally out of that? We don't, do we? We need another unit to die to get the rally. Well, we still have a pretty powerful position here. That's a bit of a bummer, though. Got completely bamboozled by Sivir out here. But now the Absolver comes in. Alright, I'll block. No! Man, don't do stuff like that. It's like we might realistically still be able to win even through that. Just need the 4 units coming in. We can still double Absolver even with the Stony Suppressor on board. Probably be a little short. A little short. Alright, well, let's attack next turn. It's kind of frightening to just go all in with this Absolver, given that he can, like, recall the Sivir out of combat or something. And so I don't want to get too greedy in that sense. Let's just bring one of these. And then we'll wait a minute and decide if we want to play the Absolver or not. If Sivir had Spell Shield, I'd just slap it all out here and go for it, but it'd be a little scary right here. We're not actually losing any of these combats. Let's still at least put the stats onto Lucian. If we're going to attack again, then Lucian having those bonus stats is going to be pretty good. And then we should have put Sivir out to the right. If she dies to Yone here, then Lucian would lose out on his Overwhelm. But GG, well played, Rocket. Got to do that sweet stuff. Man, that was pretty choice. I love it when the things come together in like one of the first games. And our combos really get to happen. And so you might ask yourself, why are you playing Lucian Sivir? And it's like, well, that did a lot of what we were really kind of counting on, and a lot of the early game stuff happening with the challengers, and if you're having to trade, still leveling up your Lucian and getting the challenger banner for our units and stuff, like a lot of stuff there. Even picking up the champion strength right at the end as a way to potentially seal the game in. Wasn't excited about playing a champion strength into a deny there in the last game, so we didn't go for it. All right. So what do we have here? We got what looks to be pirates. I'm fine to do battle against that. We have what should be the Time Bombs deck with Echo Zillion. That can be a bit of a struggle for a lot of what we're doing. Like, you don't really want your opponent dropping Time Bombs on all your 1 health units, and so that's probably the one that we'll take out here, although I am a little frightened by this Shadow Isles Freylord number out to the end, as it could be a very kind of control-heavy type matchup. But all 3 of our decks should be pretty reasonably well set up to do battle with pirates, and so hopefully, even if that's a bad matchup down there on the Shadow Isles end, we'll have the opportunity just to 2-0 the Pirates deck. Pretty reasonable start. Got our Misfortune online, a little susceptible to things like Make It Rain, but powerful start. Not gonna take the trade just yet. Like I guess we could attack and just see what he does and hope we get the damage in, but already having the Misfortunes in hand, I'm not really amped about trading with a 1 health unit on the first turn of the game. Nice codger. Very crusty. All right, well, I'm going to get a little greedy on this. It's usually not advisable to be taking this much damage against pirates. You're typically looking to come out here and just prevent every single damage that they send at you. But like we're like low rolling into this, and I feel like we really need things to go right with Misfortune here, and try and take down these 1 health units. Now, if he comes in and makes it rain, it's going to be a bit of a problem, but I think we're okay otherwise. Happy to take his Misfortune down, though. Wouldn't surprise me if he has a second one. That's a fairly greedy drop on Misfortune here, but getting the advantage on her is pretty good here. That's pretty juicy. Couldn't have asked for better. All right. The turns are tabling a little bit here. I like having the access to zap. It's like such a big boom if we hit on the inspired light. All right, I don't suspect we're going to be playing Make It Rain here. We might just have to take 2 from Precious Pet. Need I guess that's the same. Like I was going to say, we need a better block on this Crusty Codger, but the question is, do we want to Make It Rain, or we need to just bank 1 mana for next turn, right? So that we can still play Zap and then Inspired Light if we draw it. It's a pretty questionable Make It Rain here. Ready to get these blocks in now. Longer this game drags on, we should be getting in this spot to where things just get better for us. So, happy enough there. You got any scouts for us, game? We're trying to play some scouts. So, ask and you shall receive. I think the Island Navigator's looking pretty good. Would have preferred it be Quinn, but no complaints. These plucky poros. They say, "Get me into the last gauntlet, bruh. Get me into the last one. I gotta have my chance in the spotlight." Beautiful, all 1 health units. Okay. We'll enjoy these combats, my friend. You're gonna need a Ranger's Resolve real bad, but you're not playing the Demacia bros. Something coming in. Oh, he's taking down our Misfortune. All right. Well, we got a pretty good chance to hit the unit. Let's see. Did we do it? We did it. Can't be trying to take our Misfortune down like that. Very unappreciated, bro. All right. We got the counterspell onto the Nox and Fervor. This game should be done, right? We are pretty far ahead at this point. He's going to have to do a pretty big recovery on this next turn. It's exciting stuff. I'm ready to see what happens when the tournaments, as this game kind of winds down. We can talk about that a little bit. I hope the timing on it changes. Is the only thing I can say. Is that I'd love to really come out and grind a bit of the tournament content, but it's going to be tough for me to do. I'll always play the open. Well, I shouldn't say always. I'll play the open tournaments as much as I can, and I'll make a concerted effort to be able to play in them. But the kind of daily blaster, whatever it's called, the daily blaster that we're looking to play in, it's so tough for me though. Is that it starts at like 6 p.m. and runs until like 2 or 3 in the morning, and I usually do my content stuff at like 5 or 6 or 7 in the morning, and so it doesn't really mesh with my schedule, and so I'll try to get in like one a week. I can manage to pull that off, or I might be able to do a little bit more of them on the weekends, but that's the only kind of real downside for me is it's tough to get in and play those events. Like I'm sure that they'll change it a little bit. I understand the problem. Like as we jump into this last chance gauntlet and it's taking us like 30 seconds or so to find a match, I suspect they ultimately worry that like the gauntlets being free, people will just kind of jump in and filter in. But as you go to play like paid buy-in events, then you start to run into the Porobot problem as to where, if you remember back in Expedition, as you would get to like round 6 and in the final battle, a lot of the time it couldn't find an opponent in a minute and a half, and so it would make you battle the AI. And I think that they're a little bit worried about that, as to where if you are queuing up in the daily tournament at like 5 a.m., there's just not going to be enough player pool online to manage that. And so they say something different about it. They say it's something about building community and shit, and that's never what it is. Like I'm sure that is like a bit of a degree to it. I shouldn't say that completely, in that they do want community to be built behind it, and you can kind of play with the same people over and over again and get that kind of, hey, I know that guy feel, and make a friend or whatever. But in the realistic aspect of it, it's just they don't want you to have to queue for 5 minutes because it's a low population time slot. But maybe they'll figure out the sharding problem, and then if you're queuing up at 5 a.m., you can just play against somebody in Europe. Or if you're in Europe queuing at 5 a.m., you can play against somebody in Asia. Wherever you live in the world, it should be able to work out in some degree. Back in my younger days, back in my youth, I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft with Australians. I guess we would get grouped up with these like raid groups that were raiding at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in our time, and that was when it was convenient for the Aussies to be raiding, and so we certainly made some friends that way. Dumb shit you do in college when it's your convenient time to raid. 2 a.m. I don't got anything better to do at that time, yo. All right, though. Very suspicious attack with the one unit, the 1/1, but not the Jagged Butcher. I'm not entirely certain how to read into that as to whether or not he's just going to drop a Make It Rain on us and he wanted to get that damage onto Lucian. But if that's the case, why wouldn't you just attack with the Jagged Butcher and let the Jagged Butcher have a potential to trade with Lucian? And so I'm a little bamboozled by that, but still looking pretty reasonable here. Continue to try to level up the Lucian. See how it goes. Interesting. Could have traded with our Penitent Squire, but didn't. This is just going to be a Twisted Fate next turn, right? Gotta be the Twisted Fate. Maybe? For sure. Gotta be for sure. Whoa. Alright, what do I know? So let's just go ahead and protect Lucian. If we can just get him to flip and then die, that's kind of okay. If we can get a follow-up Lucian on the board, right? We have the second one in our hand. And so if we get to kind of navigate this combat on the next turn with Lucian alive, then we have that chance to come in and flip him. Interesting. All right, well. Opponent says, Lucian, you're too much for me. Got to get on out of here and GG away. Oh, did the game break? What's going on? There we go. All right, I had to take a break. I had to go and see if a tree fell down or something outside. I heard the kind of like massive crash right behind me in front of that window out there, and I was like, oh no, a tree or part of the house fell down or something went on. It was Amazon. I think they, instead of kind of carrying, I don't know what takes like more effort or more strength to like walk the 10 steps across the yard and kind of casually put the package in front of the door, or to just like stand on the sidewalk and just fucking bomb it. However far that is. Now, I guess it's kind of like endurance versus power sports, right? Like, what's more challenging, to run the fastest 100 meters in the world, or to run an ultra marathon? The big burst power between the 100 meters, or the longevity in an ultra marathon. Different set of skills, sure. I'm sure one is easier for some against other people, but that's kind of what you're getting into there. I wonder if the Amazon guy really thought it through as to he says, I'm going Amazon Power Sports today. Just fucking chucking boxes 15 feet. And if it hits, it hits. I hope it doesn't say fragile on it. It's plastic wrap. I'll be okay. Not worried about it. You didn't damage my press and seal. All right. Oh, we breached a minute and a half. I was curious if we were going to Poro bot, but not today. It's not in the cards. Wonder how long this will go up. There's got to be some other folks out there playing in the gauntlets, right? It's not just the three of us. Somebody else has to want to qualify for the 1970 seasonal tournament. There we go. There we go. Something's happening. All right. We found an opponent. Looks like we got tokens. We got Aatrox Vayne with a V, and then we got Twisted Fate Swain. Now, both of those last two matchups are not going to be good for us. We are going to struggle both against Aatrox and the Twisted Fate Swain. Now, I kind of feel like the Aatrox deck is one that you can get bigger low rolls out of from your opponent. They can draw like no units and all equipment, or they actually physically draw a hand of like double Aatrox and Vayne, and they just have a bunch of weird shit going on. And so this was a strategy we kind of ran at seasonals, as to where if we ran into both Aatrox and Echo Jinx, then we could look to potentially just leave up the Aatrox, given that they have a lot of opportunities for bad rolls. A lot less of those opportunities do come out of the Vayne version, but I still don't really want to go up against Twisted Fate. I mean, I guess we could look to play against Twisted Fate Swain, since we are playing this like stony suppressor tough style deck, but that strikes me as still pretty risky. Bringing out the Emperor's Diaz. You got it, my dude. So I just went ahead and went for the open. There's a lot of kind of awkward cards that can come out of the tokens deck that would have shut down our attack. And so I didn't want to like play a unit and then opponent have a Dune Keeper or something. It just gets a little bit painful. But we got the good blocks here. We'll have the Zap for next turn. We can see if Zap brings us an interesting card. Things like Ranger's Resolve can be quite good here as well. And so, see if one of those turn up. Nope, Inspired Light. No complaints. Interesting. It's like, I don't feel like we want to trade away the Fleet Feather Tracker. I think we just want to throw forth some attacks that the opponent can't win. And then we can build up to the Zaps and the Inspired Lights of the world. Just coming in for trades feels like we get in this spot to where he just like plays an Azir and has just like good fall. I don't know. It just doesn't strike me as a place where I want to trade out a Fleet Feather Tracker. Okay, that's fairly positive. He's gonna Blade Dance at this point. Oh, that puts... Okay. Sure. So he just spent a bunch of mana to prevent 3 damage. That's all well and good. Now we naturally pick up the Ranger's Resolve. Again, pretty interesting if the opponent's doing a bunch of Blade Dances and stuff and making all these 1/1s, and we just say, all right, I'll block it all, my dude. Yeah. But I don't think we're at the point of wanting to drop that off. I want to get Zap and the Shell Shocker and then do the Inspired Light. Actually don't want to play Shell Shocker, right? We just want to get Cytherea on board. And then we can do the Inspired Light. Then we'll show them what we're made of. Opponent's apparently made of the sad Poro emote. Does not seem thrilled about the state of the game. Sure. Sad day for all these cards when you're trying to face down the Stony Suppressor. Sure. So, I mean, how much damage is this? Lethal? Alright, let's just send it. He can block Cytherea, but he's gonna need a 3-power unit to get in front of one of our guys, or he's gonna need a combat trick to block one of these fearsomes. Doesn't look like he has it, as he's retreating the Gringley duo to the board. Alright, I got that emote. I'm on account number 2. I don't have all my good emotes and stuff out here. I should probably still go and buy the cat. Get the little Professor Von Yip avatar out here. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember if... I mean, I watched the Arcane show. Heimerdinger's the dude, right? But then Professor Von Yip is actually the cat. I can't... I don't know. I'm pretty sure that that's somewhat accurate. Alright, need some early game stuff to do. Did not find it. This is a pretty painful start against tokens. We had a much better go at it in the previous game. Don't really want to be waiting until turn 3 to play cards. Second champion strength? Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, this is the matchup we are really needing to win. Alright, Sivir and friends, you just need a little bit more time, right? You just need a little time. Can't even champion strength until turn 7. It's like, that's champion strength's our way out of this mess, but don't even have the mana for that nonsense. Is there ever the reason to just drop Sivir? It's going to have to be okay. He's going to Flawless Duet. We'll play the Ranger's Resolve. We have to protect our units to keep Sivir from attacking. Or to keep Irelia from attacking. Oh, this sucks a lot. This game's done. I don't know what we could pick up. I guess if we have some challengers and then we draw a Sharp Sight 2 turns from now, we might be able to do something, but this is not good. We're even getting a bit of a freebie from the opponent not attacking with his sparring student. I understand being afraid to attack with Irelia, but that sparring student should probably be coming in 100% of the time. Alright, GG. Whew. All right. I am a little worried now. As I kind of like convinced myself a little bit longer that, oh yeah, we do have these decks that have the triple tough unit and the stony suppressors. We probably should have left up the Twisted Fate deck, but I didn't think that through quite enough. But let's see what we can do. We got some reasonable early game bros here. Need a challenger unit. I kind of want to get rid of the Vanguard Defender and see if we can't find one of our birds. There's a bird. All right, well, we at least got a hand that can do stuff. We're kind of hoping that he either just has a really weird draw to where he can't get the cards he needs on board, or he has a draw to where like he gets really heavily invested in these kind of units, and then we can get a big mana advantage by taking down his units with equipments on them. That's interesting. Picking up the Squire, we can make a double bird attack here. It's like it kind of sucks if he plays a Demacia equipment, but if his equipment is going to be something like a quick attack, then we can still win some of these challenges.
They appeared out of nowhere.
All right, not the worst. Sad day again. That's all I got. 2 cards in hand plus the Aegis, and at this point, I mean, it seems pretty decent. The scout unit would be like kind of annoying, but again, it all seems pretty manageable.
My shield is yours.
Right, I'm gonna Bright Steel and then just look to single combat down the Valor. Oh, hang on, that does not work out. Oops. I guess it's okay. We'll just let these combats end. Yeah, that was not ideal. Not worried about the damage here. It's just losing our units. That was actually a bit of a win there for us at the end. All right, so Lucian coming in.
We must all do our duty.
Bring out the barriered Honored Lord. Now we just need to kind of like roll into the next turn if we can, and maybe get a really big champion strength happening.
I've learned a trick or two.
There's potential. Yeah, there's some potential there.
Demacia has forsaken me, but my cause is virtuous.
Okay, yeah, I mean, we can just like safely take this damage. That's not a big deal. He has one good hook as it is. Quinn's fucking annoying.
I've got your back. Still heart, steady aim.
Interesting. He's just going heavy on Lucian. I mean, I think that's okay. He wasn't really threatening to flip anyways.
Just like hunting thresher geese.
Taking 7? Sure. Oh, no. I assumed Lucian was going to kill the bird. Is he not dealing 3 damage? Well, I had in my head that Lucian was going to kill. Maybe we should have taken the single combat, but I guess if we're drawing Ranger's Resolve, then it kind of fixes some of that problem on its own. Now he's picked up Aatrox.
My steel is yours.
For Bavaria, dog.
All right, well, we beat Aatrox, right? Looks like we still got it. He's throwing down those GG emotes. All right, we can drop one as well. Nice, nice little recovery there. Was not expecting to win that. I thought that was going to be much more challenging, and we even made a little whoopsies along the way, and still got there at the end. And so, good stuff. Go us. Well done, Lucian Sivir. Everybody's making us play. Nobody wants to play against Poppy. So. All right, the final battle is here. Good stuff. Got to get some of those combos again. I got the Honored Lord in. The Honored Lord was a powerhouse in Expedition. That guy was nutsos running around. He was one of the real kind of key points to the Demacian early game. It's like it doesn't seem like a lot when you're used to just playing him in Constructed, but when you could assemble these decks that had like 4 copies of the Penitent Squire and 4 copies of the Honored Lord, and then with the power of Shurima being really good, then picking up things like Exhaust and Ruthless Predator to use with him, just all around, that was a very powerful deck. Not usually with Renekton, more so with Action, but the Demacia Shurima kind of combos. I miss it. It was a fun set of things that are just non-existent now. And so it's tough without those limited formats being around. Maybe one day they'll be back. It's just like you, at least like in kind of like in terms of Magic, you see a unit that's like a 3/3 flyer for 5 mana, and you're like, yeah, he's probably okay. There's not too many limited formats to where that like whatever they're priced at these days, like the 3/2 flyer for 4, or 3/3 for 5 with some kind of upside, and you're just like, yeah, this is something I want a copy of in my deck. It's going to be good, but it's like 0% chance it ever sees play in Constructed, and those cards are going to have to be around, but you can't. There's just literally no way to design a card that like it's impossible to design a set where every single card is Constructed relevant. It just doesn't work. But it is nice to have those kind of like fringe spaces to where they're exceptional and limited. But one day, I'm sure Ruben Zoo and Dave Guskin are chomping at the bit to get a limited format out there. Oh, there we go. Just had to wait a couple more seconds. I didn't give it enough time. I thought we were going to be here all day. But looking at these decks, I'm fine to leave up the Mono Demacia. We're doing the same things. We can play that mirror match over and over again. The Anivia deck is not something I want to be dealing with. I assume the Swain Yasuo was more kind of like stun based, and this down here is just going to be, like ultra control deck kind of thing, and I don't want to have anything to do with that. And so, no Poppy today. Sad day. Nobody wants to have fun, apparently. Nobody wants to have fun. What do we got here? We can hang on to Misfortune. She should be relatively safe in this matchup. There shouldn't be a ton of ways for them to take her down, and then ideally we'll find some unit to put on the board before turn 3. That's all I'm asking. Doesn't matter what unit it is. Any unit that can come on the board before the Misfortune turn. Shell Shocker, you're it. You're all we got. I knew you wouldn't just leave us hanging. Now we're going to draw a 1-drop. We're going to get another one. Back to back just so you can't play him. Broadwing's pretty close to that.
Go on, Fang. Just like I taught you.
Interesting. He stuns the Shell Shocker. I mean, it's going to make the Blade Twirler grow.
Set sail.
I'm gonna try and trade in the Ranger's Resolve here. If he has like a second stun, I think that's fine, but let's go ahead and make him start doing stuff. If he takes Misfortune down to having damage and then has to play Ravenous Flock on her, that's pretty reasonably okay as well.
Is a leaf's only purpose to fall?
It's a leaf's only purpose to fall. You're so deep. So how do we want to do these? We definitely want to have Island Navigator on the board in the upcoming turns. Do we want to play Zap or do we want to play these other two Dum-Dums? And I kind of like Zap because if we hit the Inspired Light, it's going to be so good next turn, and then even just hitting a Sharp Sight's not that bad. So let's get him on board. We can ignore these units he has if he hits us for 15 or hits us for 5. It's not a big deal. All right, so that happened. We'll get our scout unit on board. Is that bird? You're kind of interesting there, bro. Kind of interesting. Stun onto Misfortune. Sure, she was never attacking anyways. Oh, Yasuo kills her though. All right. Well, that's a little less ideal. So we're just gonna have to build up to Cytherea now. We could probably get an Inspired Light on the board. I do like having the size that kind of rolls with this. Uh-oh, Yasuo's getting to chopping again. Don't have any answers for him. Okay.
Try again.
Always forward.
I don't think we want to hit with our 3/2s. It's like, if he only had Spellslinger and Yasuo on the board, I'd be okay with it, but I don't want to trade these units for the Arachnoid Sentry just yet. Stony Suppressor. It's like I have such big plans for that. I mean, it has the chance to be reasonable here. Why don't we just go ahead and drop it? He has to spend the extra mana on his Guiles. It's kind of okay. If he wants to Guile down the Island Navigator, he's got to pay for it. Then we can still play a Inspired Light next turn with Zap. Sure.
I live for those who do not. Like a fish in water.
Okay.
Clumsy footwork.
Gets Yasuo up to 3. The Mornd will take him up to 4.
Some things never dull.
The forest strikes.
Okay.
Hide for a moment.
So now do we want to change our opinion on this Cytherea? I was planning on playing Cytherea, but she's not doing a lot of board clear here. I kind of want to get the Broadwing into the Vanguard Sergeant. There's two things with this, right? The thing that we're ultimately worried about is him having like a stun, which isn't a completely unreasonable thing, right? He's playing a deck full of stuns. If we, go through the effort here to Inspired Light the Broadwing, and then he stuns the Broadwing, that's, whatever, fine. But if we play Cytherea and he has a Homecoming to send Cytherea back to our hand, it's just such a huge tempo loss. We're not recovering out of that.
Always forward.
All right, so scout units in. Might as well send them right.
Delicate fob.
Man, oh, we gotta take note of that Yasuo as well. He's about to flip, and so if interesting. Let's see how much mana he spends. Like that is pretty horrible if we hook the Yasuo, we stun something and then he flips, but I don't know. I don't think we have too much choice in the matter. I mean, the other option is to just hook in the Mornd, but
Oh, it's on.
it's not like presenting a lethal or anything.
What do you think, Fang?
So yeah, here's a stun. Not really surprised to see that happen, or it's going to be a Homecoming, one or the other. a stun. Okay. And interesting, he stuns the Broadwing. Yasuo's gonna to strike it, but he would have survived that either way. So he's just like protecting him from taking the damage. And he's just completely given up his board. Like I'm curious if he plays some kind of like AoE stun, right, to where Yasuo would just kill everything we have. Guess we're about to find out. Okay. So we can drop in Cytherea. His stuff isn't big enough to get a kill onto her. No attack. Beautiful.
Soldiers to me.
Alright, let's take all the stats, I guess. We'll add the second Cytherea. We can look to play a 4 Demacia this turn. Alright, he goes big with Swain. Alright, well, everybody put your big units on the board. See, see who still has a unit at the end of the day. This can't be good for us. This does not feel well. You just have to kind of hope he has a bunch of just like a bunch of shitters in his hand, like Ravenous Flocks. Like if he has another Swain, if he has a Leviathan, those are the cards that would be decent for us here. Sure. That was pretty good.
Your attack is obvious.
All right, so he's out of cards at this point, at least. Well, he's got one card, I guess, but that could have gone a lot worse.
I live for those who do not.
Soldiers to me.
Hide
And
for
the
a moment,
Mourned.
run forever.
Okay. So I mean, we can block the Swain. That's not a problem. This is all fine.
I will mourn you.
We could have gotten a sharp sight block in on one of those, but I don't think that that's ultimately too important. They're going to be ignorable next turn because of the Cythereas,
Run forever.
and so let's just save the sharp sight in case he does something something scary. Let's see how ridiculous it can be. The Leviathan's pretty good, but we do have the protection from this Ravenous Flock now, right? We're going to 4 Demacia. He's going to Ravenous Flock our 4 health Cytherea. We can sharp sight her now, and so she'll get to survive. It seems way better than killing a Mourned.
They should thank you for
All right. So he does get blocks. Oh, no, he doesn't. That's right. I forget. When you get these double Cytherea attacks, they fearsome each other. So he only has 3 blockers on the round. He should be taking 15 at a minimum. 7 from the Shell Shocker, 8 from one of these other 2. Okay. Okay. That was a little nastier than I expected. I don't like how that game went. I don't like how that went whatsoever. I mean, I like that we got the win, but that was a much more challenging victory than I was anticipating. All right, though. Lucian Sivir, the deck nobody believes in. Let's see what we can do. Sivir is a little too expensive for the early game, so we'll get rid of her. This isn't the place where I think Vanguard Defender is going to do a lot of work either. You can look to keep him, like, because he is an elite and a cheap play that isn't Lucian, but I think we'll just cycle it away and look for some other cheap dudes.
I live for those who do not.
All right. Lucian coming in.
Don't get in my way. A little puncture and a lot of pain.
Okay.
Get him.
Bring in the stuns, that's for sure. Getting that Yasuo nice and leveled up.
Everything's easier behind a mask. This is the fun part.
Just go ahead and get that out of here. Like nothing can go right with having that giant unit on the board. I think we'll just take that one. I'm going to look to add Sivir this round. You can pop the spell shield. Like she's not going to be super well protected, but I don't think we can count on that spell shield even if we're rolling into like turn 7 or turn 8 or whatever. So we'll just go ahead and drop her. I mean, this is a very good set of attacks.
Don't let the fluffy tails.
Sure. I'm curious if we shouldn't have like preemptively single combated this Blade Twirler. That's something that's
Watch your back.
well, I'm now glad we didn't, but you know, as he has the chance to grow, it's nice to take it down when it's only a 1-attack unit. But with the barrier single combat into Yasuo, it's just such a huge tempo play. We gotta be looking pretty strong here. So we're gonna have to ask ourselves: do we want to try and champion strength next turn? Right, we'll have the 3 mana bank now plus 6 mana next turn. It's pretty reasonable. I think the reason I want to do it is because we just don't have anything else in our hand at this point, right? We can add the Stony Suppressor. If we had like a Vanguard Bannerman or something that we could use to boost like the Suppressor and something else, and then maybe play with a Relentless Pursuit after the fact, like that's all pretty well and good. But it seems a little off.
Think you're fast? Business as usual. Want to see these moves up close?
But not bad. Not bad. Gets take him down to, it looks like 4. Sivir's gonna flip out of this. Then we'll have plenty of dudes to add to the board next turn. I think we're okay. Certainly been in worse spots before. And the Leviathan. Okay, we can deal with that. We'll add in the Penitent Squire. Oh shit, I thought we were going to have an elite. We're not. That's okay though. We can still hook the Leviathan out of combat. Want to add the Stony Suppressor. Make it a little bit more challenging to stop what we're doing. And then we should be good. We should get it. And we did. GG. And so we did it. We qualified for the the 1970 seasonal tournament. I'm curious if anything turns up here at the end. Now that it takes note of our prime glory, we got it. Anything? No, it's still just the Last Chance Gauntlet. Interesting. Oh, is that the date for the Last Chance Gauntlet? Is that what that's supposed to actually imply? Can't remember. But that was a nice little throwback. You know, the decks were still reasonable. They were still manageable. It's too bad that we didn't get to play our Poppy deck. It just got banned every time. But I'm glad at least with the Sivirlution deck, we got to see a lot of the themes that we're trying to pull off with it in the terms of that early game quick attack challengers, the early game barrier challenges, building up the board, growing the board with the Cythrias or growing it with the champion strength and getting those big game enders in. It's just nice that, you know, kind of conceptually how these things should be able to come together. And you don't get a lot of kind of proving ground for that kind of thing anymore without those limited formats out there. And so, you know, good strategy. Well done. We did it. We won. That's all that you can say about that. And so that is going to do it for us today. So hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way. Had a good time watching. So this is Bustin. We thank you for being here.